to start talking about resistance exercise. And so some of the variables that we're going to cover today have to do with the first thing that we covered in this class, and that was the SAID principle. Application of the SAID principle based on the concept of specificity of training is key to making sound exercise decisions. We have tried to cram specific adaptations to impose demands on you since the onset of this class, which means that you're going to have to incur the overload principle. What was the overload principle? Felicia's always in the back of the show. What was the overload principle? No load, no gain. That's a good answer. Look at box 6.6. Box 6.6. Consideration for selections of mode of resistance.
Now, box or table?
Box. Box. Considerations for mode of resistance. I see a lot of people very indecisively trying to consider the mode. It seems as though we have too many options. I know that by being a parent, when I present my daughter, and now what you need to understand is that this is like an educational process when you're dealing with females in this way. Like, I'm learning a lot through my daughter. My son, I just say, here's your pants, here's your shirt, here's your shoes. My daughter is not the same. If I try to approach my daughter and say, here is your dress for the day, I want to pick it. That's what she did this morning. And they have this, I don't know, where do they learn this thing with their lip? I want to pick it. And she starts crying. So here we go to the closet. Pick your outfit, please.
It's because they know that you're wrapped around their finger.
I don't know. She's just, I think it's, please don't be offended, I think she's a female and I'm a male and I just don't get it.
You never will.
Nope.
Maybe you should make sure you have simple shoes.
That may be a thing.
Really, you know, wear that everything.
She's worn it before, it's not like it's new. So, the thing is though, is when we give them too many choices, think about you. I go to Brahms, and I look at the ice cream aisle, and I'm like, nothing. I can't make a decision. I just can't make a decision. It's all too good, you know? And if I get this, then I'm gonna want that, you right? Anybody else in here? Come on, I'm not the only one. Tara says, no, I know I'm getting Rocky Road, huh?
She had chunky chocolate every
Yeah.
time.
See, I can't make a decision. And so I default to something that, I mean, it all looks good, but
At least you can eat the ice cream.
we have right, but, well, sometimes.
Okay, we'll get out.
If we have too many decisions, we can't make a decision. I need you to be decisive. Now, this is not saying that you get into one track of mind and that nothing else will work. But I need to prepare you for the challenges that are out there and the reality that you're going to face. You don't always have weights. You don't always have machines. You don't always have TheraBands. And sometimes you will choose to not use manual resistance. So the idea is you have to kind of come up with a plan that you can be a little more flexible with the things that you're going to use. Based on the results of your examination and evaluation, what are the type and extent of the deficits in muscle performance? This is huge. You have to be able to assess what is it about this person do they really need. And you know what? It's not always the physical therapist's job to do this. Sometimes it's left up to you. You still have to assess. And you may pick up things because you're more intimate with that patient. You have to be the one to come in and say, you know what? I see this as being the weakness. We're gonna have to work on this. Because as much as the PT will do an evaluation and set up goals, you're gonna have to assess them day by day and see what they're doing. And see if they're able to progress this way or that way. What is the individual need of that patient? That's your job. Based on underlying pathology causing the deficits in muscle performance, would one form of resistance training be more appropriate or effective than another? What are the goals and anticipated functional outcomes? Which types of resistance exercise are more compatible with these goals? Are there any limitations on how the patient is permitted or able to be positioned during exercise? That one right there just like screams hip precautions. And some of you know hip precautions. Some of you are like, a hip what? I don't know what you're talking about. Hip precautions, you're gonna learn those in this class, but then you will really learn them in Therex 2. Is weight bearing contraindicated, restricted, or fully permissible? You know what? Some hip replacements, it's fully permissible. Some hip replacements, it's totally contraindicated. And it's your job to know which one. And to ask the question. It's not just the PT who says this. You have to have the knowledge before you go trying to gate train this patient on what to know, right? And what to look for, what to ask. It's your job. That's your job. Will the patient be expected to perform the exercises independently using a mechanical resistance, or would manual resistance applied by the therapist be more appropriate at this point in the rehabilitation program? And what type of equipment will be available or needed for exercises? Does anyone remember who took care prevention, the 6 P's of success?
Yes.
What are they?
Prior preparation prevents piss poor performance.
That's right. Prior preparation. What does that mean? That means you are set up, ready to go. I don't know how many times I've shown up and think that I had something in my bag at a home health visit and it's not there, and it really is, it complicates the whole day for me. I mean, for 1 hour, I planned on doing this and now I have to change it. And that's awkward for me because, you know, I have a plan and it didn't work out because I forgot a TheraBand, or I forgot a cuff weight, or I forgot this or that. You know, I mean, these things come in, so we have to think about that. Manual and mechanical resistance. My favorite of the two, definitely manual, a type of active exercise in which resistance is provided by a therapist, but can be taught to be performed by the patient in an appropriate situation. Mechanical, a type of active resistance exercise in which resistance is provided by something external like equipment or a mechanical apparatus. I'm looking for it, and I don't know why it's not here. Where's the TheraBand, the green TheraBand that was in here? Went back to the lab. So you guys know what TheraBand is, right? That's clearly mechanical resistance. If I took a weight and handed it to you and I told you to do bicep curls, right here, right? You would be able to do that with mechanical resistance. But what if I walk into a patient's home and I don't have those things? We'd have to do manual. And that's not just as simple as saying, Miranda, come on up here. Come on, you're my model here. You ready? Alright. Turn around here and face everybody. We're gonna do manual resistance. Okay. Now, what does that look like? Does it look like this? Okay, go ahead. You gotta think about this, right? So, are we gonna manually resist the concentric side? Up, come on. Or are we gonna manually resist the eccentric? Resist me, but let me win. Good. Good.
Could you do both?
You could. I could say, you pull here, let me pull here. Go. Come on.
Does that ever get
What a
complicated
meanie.
for him doing that?
And look, we're not even getting full range of motion because she's so like.
Maybe you could have
I'm
them like,
inconsistent, she says. It's
Have
your
them
fault.
curl their
External
dog
locus
or
of control, it's
something.
not my fault. Do what?
you could have them curl their dog or something.
Curl their dog. You can find things, can't you?
Yes, in the home.
You can. You can be creative. It's a lot nicer though, isn't it? I mean, think about this. Cause this is very real to me. When people come to me, in my place, I have all this stuff set up and I can do it. But when I have to go to them in their place, like home health, you see where this is going? I have to be uber prepared, right? I must have hurt her. Did I hurt her?
You pumped her arm enough, now she gotta go to the bathroom.
So what is it about the two things that makes you more comfortable as a therapist? Some people are just not good. I mean, you know, this disheveled person that you've been around, they cannot walk into a home and have everything. And sometimes that's me, and I think I'm pretty prepared for things. But gosh, I'll forget things every once in a while, you know, I'll just kinda let it slide. Types of muscle contraction used with resistance training. These are our review. We've learned these before. Isometric exercise, static exercise. A static form of exercise in which a muscle contracts and produces force without an appreciable change in length of muscle and without visible joint motion. There are three types. The first thing, muscle setting. Remember that thing where we put a person on the table and I put my hand underneath their knee and I said, squish my hand? What was that exercise called? Quad set. Now you know why it's called a set. It's a setting exercise. Remember hamstring sets, remember glute sets, remember those things? This is an isometric exercise, true? Yes? See page 169 for examples, it's actually like 179 I think in the new book. Yes, 179 and 169 in the old book. Examples are quad sets, hamstring sets. Do you think that this might play in any role in upper extremity stuff though? It will. What was lab last week? What did I show you we were doing? Could you call it shoulder sets? You could. We're just doing isometric stuff. How about a stabilization exercise? Use to develop submaximal or sustained level of co-contraction to improve postural stability or static dynamic stability in sitting or standing. Examples include, whoa. What's the next word here? Rhythmic stabilization. Who do I have on the table?
We get a copy?
Yeah, hand them out.
I think we will.
Look in your
Go
notes.
back with your chapter 6. Or 7, I mean.
Oh, this. Sorry.
There you go. Man, Jim's always ready to throw me under the bus, isn't he?
I was just asking.
What are the 6 P's of success? There you go. Here we go, looking at this next one. Multiple angle isometrics, used where resistance is applied to multiple joint positions within the available range of motion, either manually or mechanically. So, sometimes a person is unable to move their arm into flexion all the way. So what we'll do is we'll change and we'll say, okay, what we're gonna do is we're gonna put you here. I want you to hold it tight for me right there. Hold it tight, and relax. Again, tight. Hold. And did you see her Valsalva maneuver?
I was not.
Pretty easy to do in isometrics. Valsalva maneuver happens a lot with isometrics. And so you have to remember, breathe. Because if I'm saying hold, you know what a patient's really likely to do? Hold their breath, because they're like,
So then after you do that, would you change the angle and do it in a different?
yes, you change the angle and you repeat the isometric resistance. And it's just a repetitive thing. Characteristics and effects of isometric training, 60 to 80% of muscles force developing capacity. I can get 60 to 80% of the muscles force developing capacity through isometric contractions. Duration should be Watch this, 6 to 10 seconds. Remember I told you that last week in class, in lab? Kara says, I don't remember that because she was off, like, goofing off with a patient or something, not paying attention. This is the rise, to hold, to fall time, 6 to 10 seconds. This is a long thing. So if I do this 10 times, it's gonna take me 1 minute to go through one set. At minimum, right? Repetition should occur consistent with endurance and strength goals. Now, that statement right there is like, wait. How do I know what endurance and strength goals are? You went to the PT, note of the vow. You looked at the goals. Are the goals for endurance or are the goals for strength? We're gonna make this very clear to you here in just a few minutes about how to differentiate the two. Resistance should occur at 4 to 6 points of the range of motion. So, check this out. Come on back up, Miranda. Weak biceps, right? She had weak biceps. So we're gonna do isometrics. Ready? We're gonna go here. Oh, hang on. Relax a little bit. We're gonna go here. Golly, now she's showing off.
Well, you told me to let you in.
Not in a maximal. Hang on. We're doing isometrics.
Oh.
Hold it tight, relax, hold it tight, relax, hold this tight, relax, hold this tight, relax. I mean, we have to change it 6 times, right, to get a variable in there so that we strength train at different angles. And in kinesiology, what is important to know about certain angles? You are already aware of this.
Strongest at 90 degrees.
It's the strongest at 90 degrees. So I am going to be lighter at 10 degrees than I am at 90 degrees, aren't I? I'm gonna have to really crank. Thank you. Avoid Valsalva by, here it is, exhalation during effort. So, how do I work that in? Well, how do I get them to understand that they have to exhale during effort in an isometric that lasts 6 seconds?
Every time they quit breathing, slap them.
Show them what to do.
I demonstrate.
Teach you breathing exercises.
Okay, demonstrate for me how I'm going to teach someone to breathe during isometrics. Jessica,
Well,
take Tara and show her how to breathe through isometrics. Now here's the rules. The rules are right there. It's gonna last 6 to 10 seconds. I don't want a Valsalva maneuver. How do I teach that?
I don't know.
You do
Just tell
know.
them to
I just
breathe
gave you the
through
rules.
it.
Tell her to breathe through it for the full 6 seconds. Go. Come on. Uh-huh. Yeah. We're gonna stay right here.
Yeah, we can just stay in this class.
Bill's gonna come in here and he's gonna bring down the rain. Tell her.
They're gonna throw dollar bills at us?
Huh?
We didn't say me.
Come on. Think about this now. Think about this.
Just
Do what?
keep reminding me to breathe, would that be?
Well, think about a person who needs to breathe through the exercise.
Can you tell them to do like first lip breathing?
Do what?
Can you tell them to do like first lip breathing?
Well, we don't have to get that
Through your nose
complicated.
and-
We don't have to get quite that complicated.
As they apply
If
pressure,
you want
as
to
your
speed
blood
it up
pressure
for
is
the full 6 seconds, they're gonna have to do it slowly, right?
There, that's it. Listen to your friend up here. They're gonna have to breathe this slowly. Alright? And if I blow everything out in the first second or the second second, then what am I gonna inevitably do for the other 4 seconds? I'm gonna Valsalva. So I have to practice this technique. Right? That in 6 seconds, so we're gonna talk to this person. We're gonna say, okay, you're gonna hold this for 6 seconds right here. Alright? I'm gonna push down. I'm just holding your arm up. Alright, I need you to breathe out for 6 seconds. Are you ready? So take a deep breath in. And breathe out for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Do you see that? And I always start with 5. I don't count and try to go through 6. because it just like, for some reason that people don't do well with that. But I can start with 5, and I'm counting down. And so they're pushing, but they're blowing out, and everything works. They're not Valsalva maneuvering that way. Do you see how that works? It's a technique. You're gonna have to be able to teach this technique. Is this hard? Is it something you can't teach? Jessica's still trying to figure out, how am I gonna teach it? You have to teach, you're a teacher. You're a teacher. Okay? I'm not bringing you an apple. I did, however, on a side note, receive 20 pounds of Honeycrisp organic apples from Oregon yesterday. They are amazing.
Why are you bringing us an apple?
I'm not sharing.
I'd pay you for one. I'd like to try
I
one.
only paid $20 for them too. That's $1 a pound for a Honeycrisp apple. Go to Walmart and see if you can pay $1 a pound for a Honeycrisp.
And the apples are deadly anyway.
Huh?
All the produce at Walmart's the worst.
Are they GMO?
It's just terrible.
Well, they're organic.
Where'd you get
I don't
it?
know that you can buy anything that's GMO free.
You ordered it?
Yeah. Yeah, from
Are you
Allura
afraid?
Farms, Allure Farm, anyways, I'll show you the box. Huh? No, we have a deal that it came to the church, and you have to go pick them up. Like the truck's there, you better pick them up or they're gone.
You're taking advantage of the food pantry?
Pantry? No,
Food pantry?
no, that's just where they
Not
deliver
good
to
for
is
you.
the church, huh? No, I'm not taking advantage. I don't do that. Hey, look at this last thing. A history of cardiovascular disease may be contraindicated for isometrics. Why? It's a lot of strain. That's what that guy said about his bowel movement. You need some milk and bag. Hey, why is it contraindicated?
Or upper body?
Put pressure on the heart.
Because they just keep Valsalva. And this is why.
So their blood pressure.
So what's important? Does it make you skilled if you can teach this concept? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Because you know the difference between a therapist and an aide?
Knowledge.
You paid a lot of money.
Well, they're able to go in there and
Took a lot of tests.
talk to this patient about how to breathe through, where an aide is just gonna go in there and say, okay, hold this now, I'm pushing, right? They have no idea why they're in there. And you know, the biggest thing, like, Tara is an aide, or has been an aide. And you know what the hardest thing for Tara is gonna be able to, is to quit thinking like an aide and start thinking like a therapist. Not calling you out. I say this with love. But if you were an aide, I have to tell you right now, it's hard for you to quit thinking like an aide and start thinking like a therapist. It's super hard.
Well, if you teach them how to breathe like that during Valsalva, then it'll keep them from doing,
It will. It will.
eventually they'll adapt to that and do it that way all the
That's
time,
right.
which is better for them in the long run.
But you know what? You wanna earn the respect and be a professional, right? Are you gonna be a professional? Then you have to act like one. The first time you walk in and you teach isometrics and you don't omit the entire possibility that they could have a Valsalva maneuver, you're an aide. And you do that in front of a PT or other PTAs, and they're gonna be like, we're overpaying this person. Do you want that? Or do you wanna be a therapist? Do you wanna be skilled? This is skill. You're gonna have to go in there and you're gonna say, this is how we do it. Alright, so now you know. Now you know.
What if you have a cardiac patient that's just not getting it?
Then you omit it. You change it up. You do something different. The risk is far too high,
People who
right? I mean, the risk is just too high.
First rule, don't kill your patient.
Don't kill them.
kill them, she didn't pass out.
Even though you really didn't. I mean, it's not like you committed manslaughter. Alright,
You stupid, you don't know, Brett. I'm trying.
dynamic training. Dynamic training used to be called isotonic training. We didn't like that term. That term didn't work. So we just like blew it up. Remember isometrics, isotonics? We said, no, we're gonna call this dynamic training, and we're gonna give you some other things, but a dynamic muscle contraction causes joint movement and excursion, remember that word excursion from kinesiology, of a body segment as the muscle contracts and shortens, concentric contraction, or lengthens under tension, eccentric contraction. See the note, page 170 or page 180. You're good. Thank you. Just let me have your book. Note, although the term isotonic, meaning equal tension, has been used for many years to describe resisted dynamic muscle contraction, application of this terminology is incorrect. In fact, when a body segment moves through its available range, the tension that the muscle is capable of generating varies, doesn't it? Didn't you learn that in kines already? It varies. So, this is due to the changing length-tension relationship of the muscle and the changing torque of the load. Therefore, in this textbook, isotonic is not used to describe dynamic resistant exercise. That's why we went away with it. It just doesn't make sense anymore. We don't like it. Do you see why? Because tension changes, doesn't it? Isotonic means equal tension. We don't like that word anymore. 3 ways to apply resistance exercise: with a constant resistance, with weight machines, or isokinetic dynamometers. Now, here in a minute, we'll get into isokinetics, but let's look at this. Rationale for concentric and eccentric exercise. Concentric accelerates a body segment. Eccentric does what? It slows them down. It's typically very important for us to reiterate this. Do you remember my little old man that I'm working with? And what did he do? Right here? And I'd say, go slow. And you know what he'd do? Hang on, I'm going slow. Where's he going slow at? In the concentric. I don't want him to go slow in the concentric. You know where I want him to go slow? In the eccentric. You know why? What's more important for him to control? Think about this. This is a really rudimentary example, but seriously, walk with me through this. An old man walks into his bathroom. He is going to sit down on the commode. Yeah? If he doesn't have control, eccentric control over his quads, he falls, he hits the commode, and he breaks his hip. And then what happens? They die. You know why they die? Because fractured hips, inevitably, they just die. I don't know what to tell you. They get atelectasis. I can't say the word. Yeah, you know it. They get pneumonia. They get blood clots. My goodness, you guys all know Coach Pollard, right? And if you don't,
Great guy.
he's a great guy. A few years ago, he hurt his back.
He really got hurt too.
He hurt his back. I don't remember what he did to hurt his back, but he hurt his back. He didn't do anything. You know, that's what people do. They hurt their back, and they just like shut down. In a few weeks, he was on death's doorknob. Doorknob? Doorstep. That's kind of weird. I don't know if I want to be on a doorknob. But he was at death's doorstep. We went, Bill and I went and saw him in the hospital. Pneumonia, blood clots. You know why? Because they're in the bed. You know why PT is important, folks? At the very least, we go and we get people up and we walk them. I remember going in there, and one of our grads was working with him that day. So we walked with him. We walked like 300 or 400 feet with him. Here he is, he's on a walker. I mean, this was rough. I mean, I saw somebody that I worked with, a coworker, who I'd seen out in the baseball field for a long time, yelling and screaming and hoorahing people. And now he's just about to die because he got down, right? Is it important for eccentrics to be a a huge component for us. I mean, I'm trying to give you the idea of the old man who's sitting on the commode. What do people do in chairs? What's it called? They flop. They flop. You know why they do that? Not just weak quads, eccentrically weak. I was so hoping that chair was there. I thought, what? Make sure it was there. It's eccentric, so isn't it? And how do we train eccentrics? We have to do them. We have to control them. And it's huge to think about this. Now,
Well, if you have them go slow in that, they get Valsalva in that too. if you
they
have them
sure
breathe
could.
down.
They lock up, but it's just seen a lot in isometrics, right? Spin your leg around here real quick. All the way for me. Just, there you go. So there is this idea that people will say, well, I can train you for eccentrics, right? Straighten the leg out. We're gonna train eccentrics. Ready? I'm gonna push. You're gonna let me win, right? Is that a good eccentric for the quads? Why?
It's not as much weight as it normally would be.
Well, what's the
Quads
difference
do the
between this
extension of the knee.
and this?
No, it's-
This is stationary.
Yeah, it's stationary. What's a stationary? Open and closed kinetic, right? I see a lot of people who, they take people and they have them laying on their sides and they're doing what? Or they're doing this right here, and they're training that glute med, right? That abductor. Come on, really? That's how you're gonna train the glute med? Is that really working for us? No, but if we can put it in a functional, the real functional capacity, and we can train that glute med, the way it works on the body, then we can actually get this working right. And most of the time, that's in eccentrics, right? Okay, so eccentric can be used in early interventions to advance rehabilitation. Most chronic musculoskeletal conditions involve overuse in an eccentric manner, but are also managed with eccentrics. Okay? Last summer, sorry, not last summer, last winter, my thing is, I mean, some of, you all have things, you all have hobbies. Listen, my hobby is I run a bike. This is my hobby. Okay, and you all know this about me. This is what I like to do. And some people are like, you're weird. Well, okay, well, you're weird for chasing a little white ball around a pasture all day and trying to get it in certain strokes. I think that's weird. I'm not judging, right? I don't mean this in a bad way here, but it was really hard on me when last December I developed an Achilles tendinopathy. A tendon what? Opathy. I didn't say a tendonitis, did I? Because what I learned in my desperate pursuit was that tendonitis doesn't really happen in the Achilles tendon. The Achilles tendon is a very different piece of tissue, and I couldn't get rid of it. Have I told you this story before? What I do, I have all access to any intervention that I want, don't I? Don't I? I have ultrasounds, I have whirlpools, I have E-stems, I have kinesiotapes, I have doctors who will inject, doctors who will write me prescriptions for whatever I want. I just name it, and they'll give it to you. I really think that I need a Medrol dose pack. You know what a Medrol dose pack is? It's a big old dose of steroids you take, like 5 this day, 4 this day, 3 this day, 2 this day, 1 this day. Have you ever used one of those? You never used one? It's a little different than that, but you get the idea. I have access to whatever I want medically. If I want an MRI scan and I want to pay the copay, I can get it done. Well, this thing was driving me nuts. I could not get rid of my Achilles tendinopathy. And so finally, I did enough research to find out that Achilles tendinopathies could A, shuts you down, ruin your running career. I was scared to death. Or you can handle it the correct way and you can get rid of it. Now think about what the Achilles tendon does in running. If I have a initial contact,
It's gonna push
I like
off.
this term better, I like initial contact in running gait with a midfoot strike. What does the Achilles tendon have to do? Eccentrically what? Control me down. Right, so it hurts to run. I mean, this is just as simple as it can be. It hurts to run.
That's not on the.
Thank you. Un momento. Then I found this. Sorry. I don't like that it says eccentric stretching exercises, but this is a Canadian video. They're just different people, right? They have scaffolds.
They got the nice shorty shorts.
Alright, so eccentric, concentric, eccentric, concentric. No, I'm sorry. I was backwards. Concentric, eccentric, concentric, eccentric.
I should say, you just blew me when I was
Sorry. Alright, so what's happening with the calf right there? When they go up concentrically, right? And this is hard for me to do on this little stool. As I come down though, eccentrically, what's the calf and the Achilles tendon having to do? They have to slow it down. What I did was to cure my Achilles tendinopathy, first of all, do you remember in care prevention when I talked about itis, tendonitis? It's a bad relationship. You have to end the relationship with your bad boyfriend who makes you do drugs and steals all your money. Alright, well, itis makes you do drugs and steals all your money. I'm gonna end the relationship. So what do to end the relationship? I have to stop running. I did for 3 weeks. Didn't run a single step. No running for 3 weeks. All I did was every day, Alfredson's protocol, got on the roller, and I stretched low load, long duration. You know what my low load, long duration was? I'd sit on a, remember this? I know I talked to you about this. I sit on my little step ladder like this, and I could stand up on my step ladder because it has a little rung right up here that I can hold on to, and I watch TV for 3 minutes. This watch would go for 3 minutes and I just stretch. I just sit there and stretch. I'd stretch one, then stretch the other. Even though my right didn't hurt, my left did, that's the one I did. And I did this exercise right here. Where I'd come up with 2 feet, down with 1. Up with 2, down with 1. Let's see if I can find. Anyways, I'm not done reading.
Was the bent leg harder?
Much. Yeah.
Did it look like it?
Did they just announce that they were doing? Yeah. Yeah, it's much harder. But why do I do 2 straight knee and bent knee? Why do I do that? Yeah, because I'm wanting the soleus insertion into the Achilles as well as the gastroc into the Achilles. And I did it. I did 45 both ways. It took me a long time to get, let me just tell you, the soleus, to get up to 45 on the soleus with a bent knee, golly, that was tough. It showed me my soleuses were weak. Solei.
Do you still do them?
No. No, I
Might be-
should.
Might
I
be
should
fair
twice a week.
prevention if you do it.
I know, it would be prevention. An ounce of prevention is worth a treatment, right? And I should, and I will now that I'm gonna up my mileage running,
Yeah,
going
I
into
agree
the
with them.
fall and winter, because I don't wanna be in December with the same problem again. Let me tell you, it was rough. Plyometrics can be used to develop eccentrics. How does that work? Do you know what plyometrics are? What is a plyometric? Jumping exercises. And we're gonna go through those specifically, and we'll kind of make that make sense. An exercise load, greater loads can be lowered than lifted. Really? Think about, what I really need to do is take y'all over this afternoon to the weight room, when all the college boys are over there. And it's funny, because none of them wear shirts. They're so
Boy,
vain.
I wanna see that.
I'm gonna reach from over here for the rest of the session. They're funny. They don't wear shirts. They're all looking at themselves in the mirror. Did you do that look?
We had one guy in the gym, though, he would take his shirt off and stuff, I was like, hey man, we can't do that. Why not? I said, well, it's family fitness. He's like, I just like to look at myself, we get better pump. This guy's like 50. And I was like, he's over there like flexing up in the mirror.
Yeah. When we walked in there yesterday, took a girl from the softball team to start her on some leg press stuff. Everybody in there shirtless. I'm like, I'm gonna hang a sign today. Must have clothes on. I mean, but anyways. Greater loads can be lowered than lifted. This is big in gyms because they're gonna do, what's it called, Blake?
What?
When you stack up a whole bunch of weight and you got spotters on the outside, it's called a negative. You ever do negative?
Sometimes.
It's huge. I really recommend negatives. I'm not here saying that I know how to get big in the weight room, because clearly I don't, but what I am saying though is that negatives for strength building is amazing. These guys are really able to do a lot with negatives. And that's it. Greater loads can be lowered than lifted, meaning more force can be produced from eccentrics. Eccentrics have greater efficiency by using less motor units, and then increased stress on the cardiovascular system from eccentrics. So those are the three big things about exercise load and eccentrics that we wanted you
So
to know.
eccentrics increases stress on the cardiovascular,
Yeah.
so if they had, a cardio pathology, we might be
Right.
cautious.
Is that only because of Valsalva, or is there other?
No, it's just gonna stress the heart a little more to do eccentrics because of the higher loads that we place on it. It is taxing for a person to do eccentrics. They're going to wake up the next day and be more sore, and we're gonna get into the sore part. I mean, I've taught sore, when you get sore, you get sore. I haven't told you why yet. We're gonna get into that in this chapter. I'll wait, because in the book, it actually references and talks about delayed onset muscle soreness, so we'll get into that in this chapter. Let's talk about isokinetics real fast. This is the best definition I can give you, and I really need you to hold on to something in this one. A form of dynamic exercise where velocity speed is predetermined regardless of effort or force generated by subject. It doesn't matter how hard you work, you will not surpass this certain speed that I set up on the machine. You're just not gonna do it. It's preset. You can work harder, and that's great, but you're not gonna move past this speed. Resistance will increase or decrease in a linear fashion to effort applied by the subject. This is great when people are getting tired, because they still have to resist a certain amount, but they're not gonna change the speed. They still have a resistance upon the speed that they're applying.
So if you stop resisting, will the machine just keep moving?
No. But you're only gonna move at a certain resistance, or a certain speed, regardless of the resistance. You're just not gonna push any harder. Accommodation to a painful arc. This is big because we see in therapy that some of our patients have a painful arc, like in their knee or in their arm. They can only go so far out before it starts to hurt, and so we can set them up on an isokinetic dynamometer and train just within the pain-free arc. General principles of resistance training are this. And we saw this just a minute ago. Examine about, is patient capable of the exercise? Preparation of exercise, review goals and outcomes, and explain and demonstrate. It's important for you to demonstrate. If you see questions that ask about demonstration, you need to look at that first. If you didn't demonstrate it in the question, make sure you're demonstrating it in the answer. Application, must have a warm-up. We must place resistance in the proper place. The direction of resistance has to be appropriate. Are we stabilizing the joint appropriately? Intensity and the amount of resistance have to be appropriate. Volume and number of repetitions, verbal and written instructions, monitoring and cool down. So go into this, box 615. Man, did we skip a lot. Go right over to box 615. Keep going.
216, I think, is on the new book.
Summary of guidelines for resistance training and conditioning programs for healthy adults. That is less than 50 to 60 years old. Prior to resistance training, perform warm-up activities followed by flexibility exercises. So, what would be a warm-up activity that we might want to consider? We're doing resistance exercises. Wait, what? Stretching? Do we stretch? Oh, good job. You put that word in there. What's a good dynamic exercise that we might consider doing? Blake, you're gonna do bench press today. What are you gonna do to warm up for bench press?
Light.
Just a light version of bench press? What can we do before we put our hands on a weight though? Huh? What's a good dynamic exercise?
He can take you through the range of motion.
Jumping jacks?
On walk, jog,
Push up.
It's gotta be specific. Push-ups. Push-ups are about the same thing as bench press, right? With no resistance as far as other than gravity. And gravity is our baseline. So if we are gonna do bench press, we could do push-ups to warm up. Because we're probably gonna overload a lot with bench press. Now, some people say, well, I can't do a push-up.
Would you do, okay.
You can do 'em on a
if you
wall.
warmed up For that, would you do it against the wall or on the ground?
We may be doing on the wall. We may be going to the wall. What else could we do though? Could we have a table or something else out here? Right? Now, this is not I would never do this on a chair, okay? That chair could slide out and they're gonna face plant, right? But we could have something more stable. An example would be, this table is a little more stable right here. And so, right? So I could do something off the table. That's a modified bench press, modified push-up, and would work, would it not? What else do you think of? What else is something that might be pretty important to do in preparation for resistance exercise? Now that is a resistance exercise for some, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
That is the resistance exercise. How are we gonna warm them up?
Have them on a bike or a walk and get the
Well,
lift on it.
what about specificity? What about specificity? Hmm?
You mean an arm bike wouldn't be enough? It's
It might.
specific enough? 'Cause it would warm up all their joints and muscles
Yeah.
they'd be using.
I would take an arm bike over a leg or a stationary bike. Those are called upper body ergometers. Arm bikes are, so if you see UBE, upper body ergometer, that's an arm bike. What's that?
What about active range of motion? I mean, the
active range of motion. We don't have to always be focused on throwing a weight in there. We could do other things, just active range of motion. Maybe if we had them, before we did a modified push-up on the table, what if I just had them do TheraBand, like a punch with a TheraBand, right? A light TheraBand? Because this right here may not warm me up great, but if I put a yellow TheraBand behind them and had them do punching, that might, right? What else? Come on.
They could do eccentrics with that stuff too, couldn't they?
They could do eccentrics with that.
If you had a pool, they could do the butterfly stroke.
Oh, you know, that's, the breaststroke. Butterfly is pretty aggressive. I think you might be thinking about the breaststroke.
Yeah, probably.
Butterfly stroke is huge. Like, it's the most taxing of all the strokes. I remember this year I was at the pool and a girl was out there and she's trying to get some swimming stuff down. And I said, well, what stroke are you gonna look at? And she said, I don't know what you mean. I said, well, what stroke are you gonna use? Are you gonna try to do freestyle? Are you gonna try to breaststroke the whole thing? And she said, I don't even need to think about that. And I said, no, you really do. I mean, but the thing is there's different types of strokes out there that you can
What did
put
you
somebody
do?
in a pool. Do what?
What'd you swim it in?
Freestyle.
Do
But I
you
did
do
breaststroke
backstroke?
a 200 meter one time in a triathlon, cause I wasn't a good freestyle swimmer.
Is that close to a dog paddle?
It's
Yeah,
like
what do you
this.
mean when
Yeah,
you're?
I don't know what it's called. It's like this.
This is, we'll bring you up some,
You just get, like, read about it.
I mean, is it like, the breaststroke is the one where you have your face underwater most of the time, right?
I hate swimming.
I got taught to thrown out in the pond.
Don't let the snakes get you.
That's how I learned. Well, we just couldn't out there.
here's freestyle.
First time.
That's what I was wondering.
I used to bring up a video of Michael Phelps shirtless, but then I lost all the females.
Yeah. You see that you got pulled over for your DUI yesterday morning?
Yesterday morning,
Yeah.
Idiot.
And he was recklessly
I
speeding.
mean, he was such
and
a
he
role
over
model
the-
already, but.
Yeah, he was just so
Yeah.
amazing.
Well, you can teach you how to take a bong hit.
Dude's got a wingspan though.
Well, some of them are one talent, that's for sure.
Yeah.
So funny.
You got bus taking bong hits, take pictures of them and show it on TV.
Yeah, like.
here is the breaststroke, I
The
think.
stronger your kick technique, the more propulsion you will achieve, and the faster you'll be able to swim as a result.
This is
Flex your foot,
Pretty
pulling your
easy
toes
leg
towards your
movement,
shins
too.
at the start of the kick, while keeping your heels as close to your bottom as possible. As your legs extend
You need to
outwards
learn to
and
use the word bottom.
push the water
Sit down on your
backwards
butt
with the
is
soles
not
of your
acceptable
feet to accelerate
in therapy.
and propel your body
Tell them
forward.
they need to be able to sit on their bottom.
Say buttocks.
I like bottom better. You can use buttocks, but
Point your toes at the end of the kick.
this
As
is,
your
no,
legs
this is
straighten and
breaststroke
your
right here.
ankles come together, aim to get the soles of your feet to face each other as much as ankle
I'm not really trying to get
flexibility
you
will
to see
allow.
the lower extremity stuff as much as I want you to see the upper extremity for breaststroke.
To complete the recovery phase of the kick, bend your legs, keeping your knees as close together as possible
That's a lot of
while
work.
bringing your heels
Nah,
up
it's really
towards your
not.
bottom.
Yeah.
Keep your body
Once you,
relaxed as
if
you
you
move
saw it
through the stroke.
in a continuous motion outside of
As soon
this,
as my head went
A
under the water, I'd
kickboard
be
can
like,
be used to help isolate your legs in order to focus
this would
on
help
the
you
kick
swim
technique.
underwater though.
now see,
Speedo fit. Yes.
Jim wants to see that.
here's, Ron Lochte doesn't do drugs or drink.
I'm not gaining part.
You'll see him do a freestyle. A freestyle looks very different than a
A
breaststroke.
fast freestyle turn gives you the means to change direction
See, he's got his face in the water.
and start a new lap quickly and effectively. It allows you to continue training without a stop and start approach. and will help you adopt a more advanced level of proficiency. Within the last few
Freestyle
strokes of
looks
your
like
lap,
this.
you will need visibility of the approaching wall in order to adjust your
Face is
stroke
in the
pattern
water,
and
and
execute
then
an
he'll turn his
effective turn.
head, you'll see him
This
turn
is
his head,
called
breathe.
sighting the wall. Your
See, he
stroke
pulled the
pattern
right
should be
hand right
adjusted
there.
to ensure that
You're
your
breathing
last
through the
stroke
water?
is a full and extended one. This
No, I
allows
mean,
you
are
to
you
pull in
exhaling when
any
you're in the water or
momentum
when you're
into
out?
the turning movement.
In the water.
It will take practice to achieve this movement, so experiment with your stroke length.
Is this the one where you said kept your head up, and that's why you got that back up in your wetsuit?
I had to pull my head up to sight, and that's why I got it. You'll see it here, this is more of a freestyle.
Learn how to improve your freestyle stroke technique for a faster, more efficient swim. A faster arm stroke doesn't always improve your swimming speed. Longer, efficient strokes are always better than shorter, aggressive movements.
See, his head's not coming out of
Your
the
head
water,
entry should be relaxed and in
so
line
this
with
is
the shoulder.
pretty technical.
For most people, the head should enter the water about 12 to 18 inches in front of their head. At the end of the stretch, your hand should be at the same depth as your armpit, with your palm facing down and your fingers forwards, making sure they don't cross over the central point. In order to start pushing the water backwards, your wrist should bend and your fingers should
Anyways, to answer back to your question, they could do a breaststroke. Yeah, this is a long way around it. If you could get into a facility that has pools, oh, I really recommend it. And sometimes you're the therapist who's in their bathing suit all day, and you're just working with people in a pool.
You'll be experiencing maceration.
Do what?
You'll be experiencing maceration.
A lot of it. Yeah, you want to dry out. You'd only want to do like a few hours. Talk about wanting to do group therapy, you know, everybody in at the same time.
That's when the CD is on.
But you guys watched Deanna last year. You went to the pool.
Yeah.
You actually got in. And see, that's why I probably won't